Today I want to talk about theory and poetry. Several years ago, I was asked, as I was starting my theory journey, and I started to develop an interest in learning theory, and I became convinced that I was doing so as a poet, first and foremost, because doing so would be formative and generative for my writing. I was asked by a peer in a different field, like, why? Right? Like, what connection do you see between theory and your work? And like, it was interesting. This was one of my best friends, and he was very familiar with a lot of critical theory, but he also saw himself more as an academic. And at the time, I could bumble around certain ideas, right? I'm a poet. I consider myself creative. Oh, theory also seems to be in the realm of humanities. But I couldn't really formulate the specific answer, just that, following Audre Lorde. Oh, it feels right to me, right? That's pretty much it. But I just felt like there was something, but I couldn't access the vocabulary for it. And I think I've been working on this question, both consciously and subconsciously, for the past 2 years. And I'm now at a point where it's almost obvious. It's so obvious to me why I'm doing this. It almost makes me a little mad that I didn't have a venue to answer this question when I was younger. Certainly, I make things a lot harder for myself. I've never really, I've built a lot of my education from the ground up. I haven't really participated in a lot of intro classes or survey classes, literature classes even. So I think, I'm definitely aware of the limitations of my scholarship, where my training and my background, my education comes from. So yeah, I don't know. I think I've always just realized okay, this is something, theory is just something so separate, right? I'm reading theory more so coming out of social movement. I'm also reading it coming out of some performance studies classes I'm taking, more so as it relates to Foucault specifically, Discipline and Punish being one of the bigger texts that I was engaging with. That still felt pretty far away. When I was thinking theory, when I was starting my journey 2 years ago, I'm thinking narrative theory, literary theory, poetics in particular, and kind of trying to start to parse through some of these, how do those threads also relate to critical theory. And I'm not an expert by any means, still hardly understand a lot of this stuff, very much DIY beginner person. But it's just that the thread, the reasoning for why to pursue this has clarified itself so deeply for me. I think in a way I'm grateful for. I've actually spent a lot of today crying in the car just while driving, and realized oh wow, this act of driving is so somatic for me, in reviving memory. But I just realized this is something that I have been working on for a couple years, these questions. How did this start, right? I think now that I'm talking about this is my third time recording this. One of the places my interest in theory must have started is when I encountered the work of Maggie Nelson, maybe in 2022. And yeah, I'm so grateful for that. Specifically, The Argonauts, right, was a really, really formative text for me, mostly in terms of content, but also in terms of form. I think all of it, right, introducing me to autofiction, really densely intellectual fiction that's still something that I can really point to. I really cared and still care about the topic of matrescence and mothering as well as queerness. And so in so many ways, it's this text that has just shaped me and continues to give me so much life. And so that text really engages a lot with psychoanalysis and feminist and queer theory. Those are some of its foundational drawing points, right? And I don't know. I don't think I ever really like understood, or like I was just trying to figure it out. Like I don't know. Sometimes I was like taking performance study seminars, and like it was like all about psychoanalysis, and then like the idea of continental philosophy. Like I had never even encountered like Western metaphysics, right? Like I'd never even broached the surface of like any of that. But I think my initial theory, my initial like proposal or like suspicion, I guess, or hypothesis, I guess, for why to study theory for as a poet was that a lot of the concepts discussed in what I consider to be critical theory, I guess you could just say continental philosophy or just like philosophy, related to things I wanted to explore in my writing, themes I wanted to talk about, and that like I felt like I was just reinventing the wheel, or I was spending a lot of time like in my own head, and I wanted to like engage with something outside of myself. I mean, I was reading literature, but it felt like, you know, it would be interesting to engage purely with ideas maybe, or like something like that. I don't know. Like that was like my initial thought. And then of course like understanding theories behind construction of text, right? So like I guess that's a separate thing, but like poetics and like stuff like that just helps to like understand different constructions, because from a more critical academic or even like political standpoint, I think like I did feel just so moored on an island with like craft conversations, and I wanted to like have a handhold experience through literature that's all in conversation, it's very academic. It's just really craving that. Okay, but I think like what I really have come to that has just been obvious, like okay, so I've been like on that wave, you know, and then starting to learn about psychoanalysis, starting to like deconstruct ideas like what exactly is this? I've only learned about this in AP Psych, which I like self-studied when I was like a 10th grader, like, and being like, you know, what does any of this have to do with anything? Like just really just like diving in and like not knowing like literally anything. And then since then, like since I moved to Minnesota, one thing that I've been so obsessed with has been art libraries and going to art libraries. And what you learn when you go to art libraries is like how much art school is like about critical theory, and like how much it builds on top of that. And this is like the big breakthrough that I had like today, which is like, okay, I literally tweeted this. It's like, why is art school a place where you go to learn about like Deleuze and Guattari, and then creative writing school is where you go to like become like an agent of like the CIA? I mean, granted, I don't know like the like funding structures of art schools, and like maybe it is like just as insidious, but it's just like I think interesting to think about like cultural capture. And you know, obviously I'm referencing like the whole Iowa Writers Workshop founding and how it was founded by the CIA to like be more you know, like promote US soft power. And then there was an article that came out in Lithub today. I actually haven't read it yet. I really want to read it, but I'll link it down below in case anyone wants to read it with me. That's about how like the CIA wanted the Iowa Writers Workshop to focus more on like individualism and like first person writing and like the emotional core of like individuals versus like any kind of like systemic analyses, which I think kind of makes sense. Like if you think about how literature is a more personal vehicle and like maybe like the political implications of that. Like I don't want to get into that too much because I haven't read the article, but the point that's like so obvious to me now is like I view writers as artists. Why are artists reading super intense, super deep critical theory, but like writers aren't? Like that's like the tea. Like that is dead ass the tea. Like what is the tea behind that? Because like if you just think about it, that's just like I don't know, that's just like shocking. I don't know, that's just like what I think. So that's gotta be like part of it. And then like the other thing is like I just have been trying to dive a little deeper into like humanities academia just to like see what's going on. And I feel like it's so helpful to immerse yourself on a level of discourse that is so cutting edge and front running. Either that or like more historical, right? Like I think critical theory is like, oh, you're learning from like the 60s or like whatever, right? And like I don't know, like I think just anything to get out of like the soup that we're in right now information overload, social media, any other like forms of media that are just like so like like, you know. So that's what I'm thinking about. Like, and I feel like that's one theory I also have. Oh my god, hypothesis for why like I'm interested in like getting deeper into scholarship, like diving into like this type of like super super intellectual, super heavy stuff. Also just because I'm inclined towards it, I'm sure, but like I think it's so fertile for my writing because like if you just look at the art school model, like that's the answer. It's like look at the art school model. Why are they studying that? Why can't I study that if they're studying that? Like, and that's like I'm like, okay, like maybe I'm like not talented enough to go to art school, but now like I want to go to art school so bad because like why are they getting to learn all this stuff? And like now it's like, okay, it's great because like I'm going to like the Losing Guitari and to Oedipus reading group. I'm like parsing this out, like understanding like how does psychoanalysis like relate to life. Like I'm reading Fanon and like understanding community psychology. Like obviously these are all very like mental healthy, and I think it's like a lot of it's like related to capitalism, but like or like that's the purpose of these readings. So again, like theory is arising from social movement like groups, but I don't know, like I think, and I would love to have like a more art engaged, you know, political art, but I'm also taking a political art class at the People's Forum, so that's cool. But yeah, I don't know. And then my sidebar is that I'm a little mad because this conclusion has taken me 2 years. It's okay. I don't feel like I wasted my time, but I don't. I feel fine about my journey. I'm very grateful that I've developed this practice going to art libraries, which like I never took advantage of when I was in college. But now that there's like this art library at the Walker, like I love going there. I love absorbing like just how much has been contributed by other people. Like, oh my gosh. What is making me mad is that like, and I was talking to my friend about this in Hawaii when we were at the AAAS conference, is like, you know, he's also trying to make a similar pivot as me. He's also just trying to like teach himself like all this stuff. And we were just talking, he's so lucky. He's a senior in college and he's gonna like try to stay on and stuff. And like, you know, I was like around the same age, but I was like a year older, so I was just about to leave, just one foot out the door type of thing. And he was like, yeah, like he didn't even know what, he was like, oh, I didn't even know like what analytic and like continental philosophy was until like just now. Like I'm like, yeah, like it took me this long to like learn that. And granted, like I said, I probably took the roundabout way, but yeah, like I don't know, like I'm mad because I remember like being so confused at the end of my time at Stanford, being like, so who is really like talking about this stuff? Like where is like, who is having this kind of scholarship? And turns out there is people, okay? Like, I was just confused all the time because I couldn't really find people like that, like, within poetry, within literature, like, or just the people I was interacting with, like, mind you, right? But, like, a lot of people had a very applied view, and this is no tea, no shade, because I think that is so great. But you gotta draw from somewhere. And I don't really, like, really want to draw from, I think, like, canons, like, or just at this point, like I'm not as interested in like either my, okay, so I previously was drawing from like the personal and that was like too much, and then like I didn't want to draw from like whatever mythology canons, which like a lot of people talk about. Anyways, I just feel like this is like something that's rich for me, and yeah, I don't know, I think, and if I found out later on that like continental philosophy or like just like any of this stuff, like it only exists in like French and German studies departments, and also maybe comp lit, but like maybe not. And sometimes I just get mad because I'm just like, no offense, like how would I know that if I was a child? And I'm sure there are prodigies. I know a couple of them who have known that since they were 16. They understand all these things. Also, like I think if you go to private school or boarding school, like you would know, which is like kind of hard on my mind, but I don't know, it's like so crazy to me because it took me a long time to like understand. Like I couldn't even understand, like I couldn't even develop the vocabulary to be like, if I want to write political poetry, this is why I want it to be theory engaged. And if I want to be theory engaged, what departments or what classes do I sign up for? Because like this professor was talking to at Stanford who was teaching about poetics, and she was like, yeah, like, you know, poetics and like creative writing are usually taught super separately in the American university context, and like she was in the German studies department. It's like her course, it says like recommended to know, like you don't have to know German, but it's just like I don't know, like I just don't know how I would have even encountered that like ever, which does make me a little sad, to be honest, but it's okay. I think like there's a lot of ways to like figure this stuff out, but it also just like really knocks into my head like this is almost by design like hard to enter this. It's hard to like come to these conclusions, like I don't know, that's how I feel. And so yeah, I just wanted to talk about why I've been interested in theory lately, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.